I'll never forget it. It's my first year in the pastorate. An old wise man was standing on my front porch. We were making a housing transfer, and he was looking at my house and trying to decide if he wanted to buy my house for rental property. And he said, "Barry, I hear a lot about you in this community." And we were doing some good things. God was doing some good things in the community. And I was the youth minister and transitioning into the senior minister position. And he said, "I hear a lot of good things about you." And I said, "Well, Chuck, thanks. I appreciate that. God's doing good work among us." And he says, there's 3 people inside of every person. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, there's 3 people inside of every person. And he said, there's the person who you know you are. There's the person you want others to see. And there's the person that others see. You have 3 people inside of you. Greg sang a song today entitled, "Who Am I?" That's my request. Because I think as people of God, it's a question we can never, ever quit asking ourselves. I went back inside the house that day and I thought about the words that Chuck told me. And I wondered who I was. I wondered who I really was. Who is the real Barry that only I know? And is the real Barry that only I know the same Barry that I try to project to humanity? And does humanity receive the real Barry? Or maybe the better question is, would humanity receive the real Barry? If you knew all of my dark secrets and all the demons I've wrestled with and all the paths I've gone down and the things I've said to people and the sins I've committed and the way I've lived my life, would you really like me? Would you accept me for who I am? Would you know the real Barry? I wonder if we don't need to ask ourselves that question more often. In fact, I think we need to ask ourselves that question every day. Who am I? Because really it's quite humbling if you say that. Who am I that the Lord of all the earth would even know my name? Because I don't know about you, but I know me. And I know what I've done. I know who I've offended. I know the language that's come out of my mouth. I know how selfish I have been. And that's since I found Jesus. That very BC, we don't even want to talk about that guy. But we have to be honest with who we are, and we have to be honest with who we are before God. And that's why the story of the Gerasene demoniac is a story about us. It's a story about who we are and what we wrestle with in our lives. If we were to meet this man in our world today, we would classify him as mentally ill. And probably he would be in an institution somewhere. Bound by not chains, but bound by walls, maybe in a cell, padded on the walls. He was possessed by a spirit that we would call today evil or just mental illness for some people. Some would call him and label him as crazy. And the amazing part about this story is that Jesus comes to him and he asks him one question. It's the same question I asked you at the beginning. It's the same question Greg sang in that song. Who are you? What is your name? Wow, out in the tombs, has broken away from all the chains they tried to restrict him, living naked among death. You hear me? He's living naked among death. He has stripped himself of everything that God made him to be, and he has placed himself in a world away from everybody, secluded from everybody because of who he is. And Jesus finds him and asks him one question. What is your name? What's your response to that? I often get called reverend or pastor or different things, and I always correct people. Because I'm a person who believes if we're going to be in a relationship with one another, I need to know your name. And if it's a nickname that you prefer versus your real name, my son's named Barry Alexander. And when he goes somewhere officially, they call him Barry. He cannot stand that because he only knows one Barry Loving, and that's his dad. And so as fast as possible as he can get it corrected, he goes by Alex. And I believe that if we're going to be in a relationship with one another, we're going to love one another as God has called us to love one another, we should at least know one another's names. Now I know there's some of you just can't get the name thing down. But I believe, and God has given me the gift to know your name. Because your name tells me who you are. Or at least who you want me to know who you are. Jesus asked him one question. He didn't ask him what his sins were. He didn't ask him how much money he made. He didn't ask him where he lived. He didn't ask him who his ancestors were. He didn't ask him what his job was. He asked him his name. And the saddest part about this whole text is what this man who's created in the image of God, this man who is sitting amidst the tombs of the dead, this man who is living among the dead, who is forgotten by society, who is spoken about in society, but has been forgotten about and left in these tombs, can't even articulate his name. He has forgotten who he is. He is so caught up and so overtaken by the conditions of the world, by the spirits that are in him, that he doesn't even know who he is anymore. He has had a bad marriage. He has had kids who have gotten in trouble. He has not lived up to the expectations of his family. He has not done this. He has not done this. He's not wearing the right color clothes. His kids aren't the perfect size. All of these things we want to place on ourselves. We should identify with the demoniac that's out in the tomb. Do you know your name? Do you really know your name? Are you so caught up in the chains of this world and the expectations of other people that you've forgotten you're a child of God? Jesus was there for one reason and only one reason, and that's to save somebody from their world surroundings. To lift somebody up and say, you have value. It's the only purpose we have as disciples of Christ. It's the only purpose Jesus had when he rose from the dead, was to say to all of humanity, you have value because you were created in God's image. You, uniquely, definitely created by God, you have value. Tell me your name. Identify with me that you know who you are. And all he could say was, my name is Legion. Any of you know anybody named Legion? Never met a man named Legion. Never met a woman named Legion. The only time I've ever heard Legion is when it responds to a band of evil spirits. Legion. I am possessed by the thoughts and the things that have entrapped me in this world. I didn't live up to my father's expectations. My mother and father separated when I was young. I was a poor student. I mean, what label do you want to put on yourself? I didn't make the starting team. I wasn't the best person at my job. I mean, we entrap ourselves so often in our lives that we become like the man living in the tombs, and we place ourselves in the tomb. Did you hear the scripture? It said he was in solitary, in a place of solitary, I mean, you might as well say solitary confinement. He had separated himself from the world. Where do you separate yourself from the world? Where is it that you have placed a boundary around you because you're afraid of somebody knowing who you are, but God already knows who you are? Where are you afraid to admit to God that you are you and you are a human being? That you let a cuss word slip out of your mouth. Just this last week, yes, it happened. You were selfish. You bought something for yourself when you should have given money somewhere else. Yes, it happens. You thought of yourself first when you didn't think of others. Yes, it happens. And that's what grace is about. Do you know what Jesus did? Jesus got in the boat with his disciples and he went across the lake, a place he had never been. He wasn't going there for a religious service. He wasn't going there for a special holiday. He wasn't going there to see family. Do you know the only thing he did while he was there? He healed the demon-possessed man. You see, we want to isolate ourselves because of the things we've done or the things we think other people think about us or other people have said about us. And we want to deny who it is Jesus is in us. And we forget our name, our God-given name. Blessed. You are blessed. God breathed Spirit in you, and you became human form because of God's work. You are a child of God, not because of who you are, but because of what He did. I'll never forget walking into the barbecue joint in Pampa, Texas. I had been in town, I don't know, 2 months, 3 months as a youth minister. Came from a secular world. It was a 34 years old life transition. Met Jesus head on, changed my life. Went into the ministry, heard my call, went into the ministry. Moved to this foreign land called Pampa, Texas. About an hour from my hometown. And I walked into the Dyer's Barbecue. And I'll never forget this. I don't know anybody. It's kind of like Paris, Texas. I don't know anybody in Pampa, Texas. And I walk in, and as the lady's seating me, I walk by this table, and there's this brown-headed man who is my age, and we worked together at Cal Farley's Boys Ranch. Mindful, it was Barry, B.C. at Cal Farley's Boys Ranch. And he said, "Very loving, will I be?" And so I had to think about how I respond to that. Because this is a newfound Barry. This is a Barry who's remembered his name. A Barry who knows that God created him. I'm still just so full of God that ministry hadn't done anything. I'm on fire for Jesus. And I said, "Lynn, how in the heck are you?" And he looked at me like he'd been slapped across his face, because I know my language was not what he expected to hear. And he stood up and he hugged me, and I hugged him, and he said, "Sit here with me, I'm by myself." And I was by myself. And so I sat at his table, and he says, "What the heck are you doing in Pampa, Texas?" And I said, "Lynn, it's a good thing you're sitting down." Lynn knew me when I roped and rode and cussed and drank and lived life to the fullest. I mean, I still did good things, don't get me wrong. I was still a good guy. But I had a fun life. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with any of that, all right? I'm just saying it's your attitude, right? It's who you are and what you represent. But I came face to face with someone in my past. The man in the tombs came face to face with his past. And then he came face to face with Jesus. And Jesus said, "Tell me your name." He said, "My name's Legion." And the evil identified itself enough to know that it had met its match. You hear me? The evil knew who the evil was dealing with. There is not a thing in your life that God can't handle. From mental illness, to physical health, to marital problems, to children gone wild, that not living up to somebody else's expectations, the stuff you put on yourself, God knows. And Jesus had crossed the lake with his friends for one purpose. Our God will go anywhere and take on anything so that you know grace. So that you can claim your identity in Jesus. So that you can claim your identity in being a child who was made by God. Uniquely and specially formed. And they begged him, "Please do not send us into the abyss." I love this. Luke is such a great writer. Please don't send us into the abyss. We know we've met our match. Please, please. Fine, go into the pigs. And the pigs run off the cliff and jump in the water. What's the difference? Right? I mean, Luke, you've got such great humor in your story. But Jesus took what it was that was binding the man up. Chains could not hold him. Clothes could not stay on him. The town had completely rejected him. And God moved and made him new just like that. And he said to him, that is not your name. He didn't speak it. He just moved it in his life. And he said, that is not your name. You are a beloved child of God. Claim who you are. When I left Boys Ranch after my daughter was born, and then Mary and I were kind of having a hard time, and I went on this thing called the Walk to Emmaus. And you know, when I was 18, I knew I was supposed to be in ministry, but I didn't really like God at that time, and so, you know, I just kind of got mad at God and told God he could pardon my French, but told God he could stick it, and I just lived my life for me. He said, yeah, I know. He said, I know you lived your life for you. I was like, thanks, man. He said, but what are you doing now? I said, well, then I'm in the ministry. I mean, he pushed his chair back from the table, and he got this look like, excuse me. You know, he just said those words to me when he said hello to me, and so he's trying to clean his mouth already while he's sitting there across the table from me. He said, are you kidding me? And I said, no. I said, man, I'm not the guy you used to know. All that stuff I used to do, and all that stuff, I still love to ride, I still love to rope, I still love all that stuff. But I'm not, character-wise, I'm not that guy anymore. And he took a deep breath. And he said, well, you and I need to talk. And what I didn't know, Lynn was going through a divorce. He was fighting for custody for his daughters. But he was pushing back from me. Because he was afraid I would judge him. We were friends. I mean, we'd been through it together at Boys Ranch. And we were friends. And he was afraid I would judge him for where he was at. And so he said, you and I need to talk, but I need to schedule an appointment to come see you. I said, okay, that's cool, man. I'm good, whatever. And then we just went on, we talked about life and what was going on in our lives and blah, blah, blah. We had good words. Then scheduled an appointment with me 2 months later. In that appointment, Lynn confessed of unfaithfulness, confessed of just not being a good husband. And also confessed that his wife had some struggles that he didn't want to deal with. That they were divorcing and that he was struggling to get the kids. But he was afraid of God. He was afraid God would judge him too harshly. See, the people of the area where Jesus healed that demonic man, do you know what their reaction was? There's nothing, I'm telling you, there's nothing greater in your life than when you realize you're a child of God. There's nothing greater in your life than when you realize every bit of your being was formed for a purpose. And that's to love others because God loves you. And that you are wonderful, and you are beautiful, and you are created especially uniquely just to be you. There's nothing greater. And there's nothing you want more than to run and shout from the mountaintop and tell everybody about what God has done. But yet the people of the city came to see what God has done. You know the rumor mill, right? They came to see what God had done, what Jesus had done to this man that they had put out in the tombs, the man that they were comfortable with. It was a human being, one of our very own, and he's mentally ill, and he's living in the tombs, and he's running around naked, and he's broken chains, and we're just going to leave him there. And they heard that he had been healed, and they ran, and you know what they did? They ran Jesus out of town. You know why we run Jesus out of town? Because we can't handle the goodness that's in us. We can't handle the ability to say, we're okay. We're not good enough because we think we're not good enough. We're good enough. God said we're good enough. And why would we run Jesus out of town when it's Jesus who heals us? There are churches that try to run Jesus out of the church. Folks, the church is about leading people to salvation. We are examples of lives who have been changed, lives who have been made new, lives who have been created, so that we can influence others to know how good they really are, to know that God loves them. Why in the world would a community run Jesus out of town? You don't know why? You have to change. If you're going to be who it is God says you are, get out of your house. Get out of your tomb. Get out of your cell. Get out of your comfort zone you've created around yourself. That you've padded and protected yourself by saying, I'm not good enough. Somebody said my clothes didn't match. My parents got divorced. How long are you going to play in your mud puddle? Jesus went across a lake to pull a man from his mud puddle. And he healed him right there. And he said, you are new and you are valuable. And his community said, get out of here, Jesus. We like being sick. We like being where we can blame God instead of taking responsibility for our own actions. If there's anybody who's caught in a trap today, let yourself out. All you have to do is share with God where you are and what's going on and cry out your name to God, and God will release you from that trap. Ask me, I've been there. I can speak from experience. Lynn heard my experience when we met in that 2-hour meeting. And did you know that Lynn became an elder in the church that I served over the years? Did you know that Lynn found happiness again, and Lynn fell in love with Jesus again, and Lynn married this other beautiful woman who was going to our church, and they're still married today? Not that it's perfect, but they're still married today, and they've worked through their problems, and they believe in Jesus, and they worship together every Sunday they can? Did you know that they found grace in Jesus Christ, that they can let each other mess up, that they don't live up to each other's expectations, and they find grace in Jesus Christ every time they come to church on Sunday, and they know that God is with them? You see, they didn't push God out of their life. They didn't tell Jesus to leave. The door was cracked open and Jesus came running in. And they were healed. God's doing it every day of our lives if we'll just allow ourselves to be healed. You look in the mirror and you say, who am I? I look in the mirror every day. And I say, God, are you crazy? I mean, honestly, I say that. Can you believe, we lay in bed at night and I say to my love of my life, can you believe God's using us? She knows me like everybody. I mean, better than anybody. And you know what her answer is? No. You see, if you'll get out of the way long enough of yourself, and you'll say to God, come on. You know, there's no saying that says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. There's something we as pastors say is, I can lead you to that cross right there. I can show you the needler in my office, and in fact, I'll get down and kneel with you, and I'll put my arm around you. I can't make you sink or I can't make you invite Jesus into your life. I can't make you accept the grace that God offers you through a relationship of love. But God can. And God's willing to go to any distance, to a foreign land, to find you, to grab you to the darkest corner of your home, to your office, to your car, wherever you are, to the back pasture, wherever you are. God's willing to meet you there and say you are healed. Live a new life. A life of grace. I love the depiction at the end of the story. When we first see the demoniac, he's in the tombs. He probably has straggling chains hanging from him. He is naked as a jaybird. And he's probably skinny, and don't you imagine his whole body's just scratched up and beat up, and His hair's all matted. He's probably got a long, ugly beard. And then it says, they ran Jesus out of town because they found the man sitting at his feet, fully clothed. Fully clothed. I want to say he was dressed in white. Had a new shower and a shave and a do. Because he had met Jesus. And he was a new man. And he wanted nothing more than to go with Jesus. I remember the day. I mean, I wanted nothing more than to hang on to Jesus. I didn't want to go out and see the people. There was nothing more. When I came home from that experience, I walked into my house. It was 1,700 square feet. And my wife said, "You don't fit." The Spirit was so full. It was like somebody just squished me. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay with Jesus for the moment. I encountered the Holy One. I knew that God was real and God was present. And God had forgiven me for what I had done. And that I could start anew. And I could be who it was God had made me to be. Leon said the same thing when he experienced Jesus. He wanted to stay with Jesus, that newness he fresh, that grace he understood. He didn't want to move from that moment. But did you read the text? I just want to stay with you, Jesus. Can I go with you? Can I get on your boat? Can I stay intimate with you? No, son. I need you to stay here. And I need you to tell people what happened. Do you know that when we encounter the Holy One, that when we're made new and we're made fresh, and God has created anew in us, and we've understood who we are, and we can answer the question that who am I, that the God of all the earth would come to know my name? Yeah, I know I'm a child of God. That's why he knows my name. That he doesn't want me to stay there. He doesn't want me to stay on that bench in my office. I mean, it's comfortable on that kneeling bench. I like it because it's God and me, we're one-on-one, but that's not where he wants me. He wants me out here. And he wants me telling you what's happened. He wants me talking to not you, but he wants me talking to the people at the coffee shop and at Cozy's Cappuccino and all those places that I go. He wants me talking to people about what God has done and what God is doing. And a lot of what God is doing is right here with you. It's the same with you. When you encounter Christ anew, when you receive the grace of Jesus Christ, when you can answer your name and say, I am a child of God and my name is Barry. You call me whatever you want, but I am a child of God and my name is Barry. I don't need titles. I don't need nicknames. I am Barry and I was made by God and God calls me good. And go and tell people. Go and tell everybody. Go and shout it from the mountaintop. Tell them that you have encountered a God who gave you grace, who lifted you up from the depths, who made you new, and who sent you out into the world. That's the story of the Gerasene demoniac. He was recognized. He was made new. And God sent him out into the world. How about you? Who do you say that you are? And who do you say that God is? Go. Tell the Lord. Amen.